Let me set the tone for you for how today has gone in the West Ham world. It's non-stop. It is non-stop. Now, this is a live show, so we're going to give you the chance to write the comments in and bring to us your honest, genuine opinion on the whole situation. But let me set the tone and let you know where we're at. So you wake up first thing in the morning and you check all over the internet and you see what's happening in the West Ham world. And at some point today, a West Ham Twitter account put out a little section of information that they had been sent, which is Noble has resigned. Initially, and I think quite a lot of people went, nah, there's no truth in it whatsoever. And a couple of reputable, social media accounts got themselves involved. So the first one that I saw from this whole kind of debate was Sean Wheatston from West Ham Football, who put up no chance at all. So that he had been to the club and asked about the situation, and they categorically denied that Mark Noble had resigned from his position as sporting director, and said that the intent was, or the internet rumours circulating today were malicious and have no truth in them whatsoever. Now, we're going to bring a couple of guests on to talk about this a little bit as well, so we'll get into that in due course. And then later on in the day, we were starting to get some more news coming out from ex-employee, of course, from the West Ham way. And he went on and said it was broken today all over social media that Mark Noble had resigned from his position as sporting director. This was something that he had heard, that people had heard, whatever. And they've spoken to people at the club, and they're denying the story has any truth. But they then go on and say that there is, however, often no smoke without fire, and they believe that there's been some concerns raised about the recruitment by Noble. The club have obviously tried to sit down with former captain and resolve the situation today, and if a resignation was mentioned, that it's been retracted. So no guarantees there of anything. So there was more to it. They said it's a delicate situation. And there is an update saying that Mark Noble was happy and has met with the club today and gone on further to say that he's going to commit to his role. Now, on top of that, certain other West Ham news sites have spoke to David Sullivan, have gone direct to the source. Now, take from what you want from the comments, but he has responded to the resignation rumours when speaking to Hammers News. Now, we do know Noble returned to West Ham earlier this month in the newly created sporting director role, and there's no hiding the fact that the West Ham highly well thought of figure has been hugely missed off the pitch, and off the pitch, especially in the dressing room. So we, as supporters, were reassured by his return to the club in official capacity on January the 2nd after bringing the curtain down on his career at West Ham, player last May, with over 550 senior appearances. He worked closely, and he will work closely with David Moyes, as well as working with the board of directors, providing input, advice, and assistance across all aspects of football. Now, that in itself made for a really interesting position, given that Moyes is a man under a lot of pressure. So, the arrival of striker Danny Ings in the first win in 8 games at the weekend lightened the gloom around West Ham. But rumours surfaced on social media, as I said, about Noble potentially handing in his notice. And it gathered a bit of momentum online. But David Sullivan responded to the rumours himself directly to the news report online. And he said, rubbish. As simple as that. He just came out and said, rubbish. So, there's loads of people in the comments. We'll get onto that in a minute. But let's bring on our panel, as you could say, as we get discussing the whole Mark Noble situation. And would he or would he not resign from the club? Now, guys, we've been over the past couple of days, our chat has been a little bit interactive. We're having a bit of banter, people going here, there, everywhere. And I suppose every circumstance in every part of life, I think I wrote in the comment, like, has my work ever got on top of me? Yes. Has I ever thought in my head I want to resign? Yes. Would I do it? No. I'll come to you, Luke, first, mate. First and foremost, I hope you're well. I hope you're well, mate, and I hope the baby's doing all well.
Cheers. Same to you.
If anyone does it, my daddy, De Gea is a dad. So, hope, and please, everyone, please wish him best wishes. So, look, over to you, mate. Mark Noble situation. Go for it. Elaborate a little bit.
No, I must admit, since I've heard about it, it would not surprise me at all if there's a rift has been created, because we've all known that people have said that David Sullivan, this is like former managers and stuff, saying that he's not the easiest person to work with, to be behind the scenes. And someone else was saying, he's Mark Noble's been at the club even longer than the owners have, so he would know what they're like. And it's a bit, then, in my opinion, being a footballer and having the owners in the background is completely different to actually working under them firsthand and dealing with them day in, day out, which is now going to probably be Mark Noble's role. So, if I'm honest, I was sort of waiting for it, because I was thinking this is going to be interesting how he actually deals with working in a different capacity. It's also a new thing because he's been a player for so long. Suddenly he's a brand new role that he's never done before or anything like that. So it didn't surprise me. And there is a part of me that also, like I said to you, I'm not a fan of the owners anyway. Rest in peace, David Gold. Obviously, don't mean any ill to anyone. But obviously, you've got Sullivan and Brady still there. And I've not liked them for a good many years. That isn't going to change just because they've hired a manager and bought players. It's my dislike of them is for different reasons other than just transfers and who they bring in. So, if I'm honest, I'm a little bit of an anarchist in that thing. But if there is a rift, I'm like, yes, come on, because it might mean there's a higher chance of them selling the club and whatever and departing. So I was hoping it was more than a rumour, but apparently it is. So, but then is it? Because like you're saying, if people are coming out and going, well, there was a problem, but now there isn't, then it's obviously, there's no smoke without fire, as people say, isn't it?
There probably, Matt, I'll come on to you in a second, right? But there's probably, when people start a new job, especially, I can't even fathom to begin to understand what it's like to love something that's your passion and your hobby, represent them your whole career, never leave them, and then get such an important job at probably an extremely important time in West Ham's history about progressing. So I don't doubt for a second that Mark Noble takes this job. Go for it.
But just on that, it's even bigger because it's a new role they've created. It's not like he's taken over from someone else and he's been there and someone can show him the ropes and this is what I normally do. You have your own way of doing it. They might have, obviously, every other club has sporting directors. We're the only ones that haven't. We're the only club that hasn't got it. But now that he's gone into that and suddenly he's been thrust into it where he's not a player, he can't be dealing with players all the time like he used to be. It's even harder because he's got to kind of try and invent the role himself and create it as he goes along. So it's not even that easy from that regard.
No, absolutely, and it is that role, and to love something so much. And sometimes they do say, sometimes you don't want. It's like when you're a kid and they say to you, sometimes don't meet your heroes because you could be let down about it. Sometimes, and it kind of works the same sometimes when you're in a job. So he'll care about it. When Diangana left the club, Mark Noble was very vocal about the situation, wasn't he? And some people were like, well, good on you for being vocal, and some people were saying, well, no, you should respect the club's decisions, all that sort of stuff. So there could be a conflicted message there. There's no doubts about the fact that Mark Noble will be sitting there right now going, this is not what I want West Ham to be. Absolutely not. Matt, I'll come to you on your opinion in a second, but let's just address this comment. It will take years to repair the damage done by Moyes. Do you believe that?
No. Because I wouldn't lay the damage at Moyes. Like, in fairness to him, like people have short memories, right? And like from the chat, I don't want Moyes here anymore anyway.
Really?
But let's not forget what he actually done. What state was we in when he came in? Like we had one scout when he came in, and that was like Sullivan's son, and that was the only scout we had. So he has brought in a scouting network. He has brought in coaches. He's brought in players that aren't just Sullivan. Was it Will Salthouse clients? He's brought in other players. So I wouldn't lay all the blame at Moyes, but certainly it would take a couple of years if you're going to try and change. Style of play can be hard to change if you've got lots of players all playing in the same way. I mean, you look at Man United, it's taken them how many years after Sir Alex left? Because every time a new manager come in, he'd have a slightly different way of playing and he'd bring 4 or 5 players that he wanted in to mould that way. And he got to about 2 years ago when they had almost like 4 different managers, sets of players, like little groups of players. So would it take, is it insurmountable damage? No. Like, there's still a core of very, very good players in that team. I don't see how you can say Moyes has done massive amount of damage. Sullivan, maybe. You know, certain teams now just don't want to deal with West Ham. Let's just not forget that. Certain teams now just won't. You look at like William Carvalho. Like, what sort of damage does that do when you put in that statement out like, no, this is our final offer, this is that. But I wouldn't know. I mean, what Moyes?
Let's come on to the Noble situation then. You know, for me, the biggest thing about when I read stories and you know, sometimes I try to be too practical. Look, you say it. Sometimes when I think I'm being practical, look, you say I'm being over the top positive.
Yeah.
So you say, but I'm trying to like understand it. I'm trying to compute the information that comes to my attention. So, you know, if I'm going to resign from a job, then I don't know who I would tell that I'm going to resign from a job except for the closest people to me and then the people that run the club at that level. So if there's any genuine truth in it, I just don't understand this world of how this information gets out. Because this is different to transfer rumors because agents are involved in transfer rumors. So you can understand how people can pick up a story about that because you can pick up the phone and speak to an agent and try and, you know, twist up a bit of information and a bit of story. But when it comes to the big news like this, like, you know, earlier on, he's going to resign or there's no smoke without fire or the situation, how the fuck do we find out? Like, how does that work?
I think to an extent, I mean, the win on Saturday has probably put people's spirits a bit higher and it's not as doom and gloom as it was after losing to Wolves and stuff like that. But to me, it's almost like, when I say I'm waiting for it, as in like, I think people are expecting there to be a problem because of the fact that they know the history between David Sullivan and the fans, David Sullivan, and when he's been working with former managers and stuff, thinking, well, when Noble goes in there, he's a man of the people, he's the fans' favourite, you know, the cult hero, the player that all the players love, and we'll find out how much of a West Ham man David Sullivan is by the way that Noble will react to. Now, Noble's only just got there, and everyone's going. I think there's some people that almost say there's some people that can't wait for Sullivan to mess up so that Noble will do his nut, and then all the fans have got the opportunity then to go, right, that's our confirmation that David Sullivan is an arsehole to work for. He is hard. He is everything that the GSB outlaw, including myself, think he is, and this is a way of getting him out. So there's to an extent, football is full of vultures. So the moment they've got a chance to grab the meat and eat it, they'll take it. Rumours can start anywhere. I mean, let's face it. I've heard the information I got today was from WhatsApp messages, and then I went straight onto Twitter. I had to search it. To be fair, I thought it would come up on my newsfeed. It was searching it out. But you know, Noble's a connected player. He's not a player that's been, for example, Noble's a local boy as well. He's from down the road from West Ham, so he'd have people that he went to school with, or close mates, friends. You know, there's a lot of players in that team, like Rice, Creswell, who have been there for quite a few years now. That they'll know people connected to the club, and all it takes is one message, you know, Noble walking out of a meeting and being pissed off and texting his best mate, and his best mate goes, I'll text you, then he texts someone else, and it goes on from there. But again, it can also be along the lines of every man is dog down the pub. Oh, my mate who knows so and so, who knows, you know, dog said, you know, it's a.
Which kind of gets that feel though, because Matt, when I think of Mark Noble, right, I think of this, you know, he apart from the Ian Ghana situation, I think Mark Noble meant what he said. I think he regretted speaking out loud and saying it, because what it did was when people judged Declan Rice for flapping his hands and shouting at other players, that's exactly what Mark Noble done. No, but it's the truth. That's what Mark Noble done. He spoke out maybe above, never done it in the park, but he done something that you wouldn't expect at the time. So when it comes to this situation, I think of Mark Noble as being this professional guy who I don't think would come out from a meeting pissed off, WhatsApp his group mates going, I know your point, Noble. Look, I just don't see him as that guy.
I think he would. But what I'm saying is he'd have to trust the people he was texting wouldn't text people they shouldn't text. It would have to be in an inner circle. This is not being funny, but we're not the only professional football club out there. There's going to be other people that you got. How many other people do we know? The Tottenham board, the Man United board, the Arsenal board, the Wolves board. That they don't argue every opportunity they get in a meeting. It's not all hunky dory. Even Arsenal have a great season this season. They might be having fallouts in meetings all the time. So we don't know. And I know exactly what you're saying. Everyone's professional, and they're not going to go and speak to their best mate John on the WhatsApp suit. Who's hoping to about the latest stuff. And I've had a meeting with Sally, and he's an arsehole. Well, I'm going to resign tomorrow because I'm not having enough of this. I understand what you're saying. But a rumor can start from anything. We're living now in a social media growing society environment, whichever way you want to put it, that the smallest thing. I mean, look at today. Look at the Danjuma thing today, right? Yeah. The people are saying that he's at Everton, and he's saying, "Oh, I don't want to sign for Everton because Moyes. They're considering Moyes to be the manager. I don't like Moyes." We don't know if that's true. The agents could be going, "Listen, by the way, the same happened with Finn Downs. Finn Downs was about to sign for Crystal Palace. He had everything signed up, and suddenly he heard of West Ham's interest and went, "Do you know what? I'm a West Ham fan. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to sign for them." The same could have happened with Danjuma. The agent's gone, listen, got a better offer from Spurs. They're in Champions League. They're up the table. Go to them instead. So you don't know, but this is the thing that does go around.
Toby's in here, and this is directed for you, Matt. If it's true, my guess would be it's linked to the youth players leaving. Obviously, we heard. The hair's busy. Obviously, we heard the news yesterday about Pierre Ekwa leaving the club on a permanent deal to Sunderland. We've seen his video. People can say it was a slight dig or not, depends on how you want to take that information. Rumours are circulating again about Ashby potentially leaving the club. What's your thoughts on the comment here from Toby? Matt?
It's look, we're just saying about rumours and how rumours start everything, and this literally could be it. Someone have literally some random account on Twitter could have just gone, let's just add 2 and 2 together and make 5. We said Dean Garner, Noble was very outspoken. He's come into this role that he started 2 days after the window opened, which is just really weird. But also, I don't think he actually knows what his role is. Like we said, the club hasn't had it before, so it could be, it could be that he thought, my thing is hiring and getting players in and getting players out. And then, lo and behold, there was rumours that Ekwa might be going out on loan. And it's like, actually, no, we let him go for nothing on the basis that we get 25% of whatever they sell him for. And Noble's probably gone, what are we doing? Are we going to be progressing players? This supposed to be like, this was potentially looked at as like the Declan Rice replacement. You've let him walk out the door. You let Elise walk out the door at the start of the season, having a decent season at Sunderland. Even if you see his stats from the game at the weekend, he's doing really well. Like, he's not struggling. Now you're letting him go out there as well. And then Ekwas if you want to read between the lines, may have had a dig at Moyes or the club saying,
I'm
now going to a team where, they actually let youth have a chance. Which, in fairness, he's not wrong at, And so, is this what Noble's got annoyed about? Noble thought he was in charge of who went and who didn't.
I've taken a bit of I think it was you, Luke, that responded to me saying, was I kind of gutted about the Ekwa heading out the door? I was more gutted about Alessi leaving. I was more gutted about him leaving than I was about Ekwa. Now, my justification on Ekwa, if I had to have a justification on it at all, was if we rewind back to when we signed Ekwa, there was not many West Ham fans that were enamoured by the signing at the time because people were pissed off at the fact that we signed a reasonably older player in terms of youth who was going to come in and knock the current youth off the block, which actually led to players like Holland heading out the door and other players in the youth setup. So when we signed Okaflex and Equa, I remember vividly doing videos about the players coming in, and very many fans absolutely tearing the signings to shreds because they were pissed off at the fact that, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And I felt like the system that they were trying to achieve was, this the world we live in now. When you think of the Declan Rice situation, 14, released from Chelsea, sign up, snap up the best young talent that you can find, give them something different, wrap your arms around them and create what you've created. So it's a dog-eat-dog world now in the youth football of England. And youth football or anywhere, really. So you're going to try and find the best talent. And if they are going to be the best talent and going to knock people off the blocks, then so be it. Pierre Equa and Okaflex 100% are coming to this club with the intentions of breaking into the first team quickly. They're not here for the long term. They're not here for the longevity. They're not the Devin Mubamas. They're not the Ollie Scarls. They're not the other players that are youthfulness, that have been with the club since the start, that maybe, I'm not saying do, but maybe have that career path. If there's any sniff at the fact that they're not going to get first team football, I genuinely believe players like Equa are going to be off ski. If Okaflex doesn't make any form of transition over the next 18 games, 17 games, don't put it past Okaflex heading out the club as well in the summer. Two signings that people were not enamored by when they came into the club. So I don't know necessarily if the Equa signing is as bad as what some people, not all, some people are making out to be. Alessi pisses me off more. Diangana pissed me off more, but we've been kind of proven right on that one in particular. Look.
Well, I'm not sure why these players are being brought back, unless they've not really been used by their clubs, or the clubs aren't fancying them. So look, we've had them for 6 months. They've not really made an impact here. You might as well have them back, mainly because, cheers for the close up, mainly
because of the comment.
Yes, right. I've got to apologise to Irish actually, because to Tommy, because I keep having to bail out on a Friday night. So I've got a quick 5 minutes, 20 minutes here, so I apologise, mate. But yeah, it would not be funny, but we signed Downs in the summer, and he can't even get in the team over an underperforming Suchek. So most of these youth players must be thinking, what have I got to do to get in? You know, Creswell for me has been underperforming all season, and Ollie Scars can't get you go over him. And I've no faith really in while Moyes is manager anyway, in youth being used. Youth only been used at the minute because in the Europa group stages, or the Conference League group stages, because there's no need for them not to. They might as well use them. But I like, for what I've seen of Okaflex, I think he's a really good player, really exciting player. Right. The problem is we've got one of them in the team already from Rama, and Moyes didn't fancy him. So to get these players in, I can't.
Yeah, but I think players like Okaflex have less patience than the younger player that's been at the club longer.
Well, do you know what? I was watching a video the other night. I think it was Forge for Mine guys, and I think Gatesy was talking to Juki about something, and they said the interesting thing, which is I've heard a lot about with youth players where they're concerned, is they'd rather stay at a Premier League under 20, reserve youth team club for as much of their career as they can, rather than going on loan to a League Two team like Grimsby or to Ipswich or something like that, because on their CV they want it saying that they were under contract at a Premier League club. They don't want to be going off to up north for 6 months to a year. They don't want to be going to these lower league clubs because it messes with their ego. Plus, they've all got agents who are telling them they're good enough to be playing for a Premier League club. It's the money they're getting as well. So you kind
of. That's the thing, though. That's the thing. That plays the key part in it. There's a very good podcast. I've mentioned it before. Ben Foster. He talks to several people, and he's asked the question about what's your advice to young players at the club, and he says go out on loan. Go out on loan and go and get the experience, because sitting on the bench isn't going to be experience enough for you to get a career. And the famous player who we've done a show on, Lee Hodges, at the time with West Ham, was numero uno to be the next youth player breaking through the ranks. And Tony Carr said it himself, like, Lee Hodges was better than Frank Lampard Jr., but Frank Lampard Jr. came in and took his opportunity, and that just threw Lee Hodges way back. And then Lee Hodges had to leave, go lower league, and get a football career behind him. And that's exactly the reason why he did when he came on with Russ. Such an interesting story to listen to when you tie up the Lee Hodges situation.
I tell you, just on that quickly. I don't know if anyone. I heard this ages ago. Junior Stanlass was in a podcast, and he was asked about his career, and he said something he found was when he was sent out on loan from West Ham. So he's got at West Ham, Premier League club. The training was a certain way, and the standard was a certain way, and a certain way of passing, and all the stats. Right, went on loan. And all they did was play long ball football. All they did was play pump. So he was gone from doing one touch, triangle training, and all sorts of stuff at West Ham. Went on loan and was basically like playing what he considers to be pub football, like Route 1. And he'd come back to West Ham. He was like looking forward to playing the football that he was used to in the academy, and couldn't keep up the standards. Because he'd gone on loan to that other team, he'd lost that ability. He had to work his way back up to be any sort of standard. Because afterwards he said, I just completely lost any idea how to play at that standard level because I've been out of it for a year or wherever it was. So it's just interesting on that side of things as well, how much it can change the player.
Matt, do you really think Mark Noble would resign from West Ham?
No.
They're green screen, by the way, Matt.
Yeah.
No, that's
unless.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Sorry, I've interrupted you. I was about to find out. We'll go ahead, me. She's going to kill me.
I don't think it's difficult because we don't know what's gone on.
No.
Like I said, he got given. It's almost like, don't forget the back end of last season before he retired. I think was it Gold or Sullivan come out and was like, "Oh, he's Mr. West Ham. He could have a job at West Ham for life, doing whatever he wants." And I think Noble then himself said, "I'd never be West Ham manager because I care too much." He's like. The missus used to hate it. He said if we played a weekend and we lost, because he'd just be mopey all weekend thinking about what we'd done wrong and get over it. So on that basis, I can never be West Ham manager. And it's almost like West Ham were like, well, we need to get him back involved in the club somehow. All the academy stuff's full. He doesn't want to be a manager. Let's make him sport director. But then, or director of sport, whichever way you want to call it. But they never laid down any ground rules.
Apparently, he was meant to be. The first thing was he said, "Right, you're going to be in charge of the youth coming through to make sure that they've got a transition, for definite 100% transition from the academy to the." And then they were saying that basically he was to make sure that the relationship between the management and the board was good because they didn't have a middleman. It was just basically like he gets like someone tells Moyes what to do, whatever. Then it was basically like then they're saying that basically he was meant to be. He'd be the publicizer for the fans, so that when the people were moaning about, Moyes not getting sacked or something not going right in the boardroom and the protests we had about 4 or 5 years ago, whatever it was, and he'd be the guys come out and soften the blow, and the fans would be more on side of the owners and all that sort of stuff like that. So basically, he went from someone who was going to be, the in between to someone who was going to be a padder. So let's not get anything too twisted. So I've had loads of different things that was meant to be. He's really got a job on him, jobs like a go between to everyone. Because everyone knows him.
He doesn't. I don't know. Even as a player, he never seemed like a hothead. So I can't imagine this as like. If he has done it, this wouldn't be a rash. One of them guys that loses the chain every 5 minutes. You got to stuff this. You can stuff your job and go in. If he did put it in, there would have been general, legitimate gripes over. Something.
As a player,
I can't imagine.
No, but this is a different role for him now. And it honestly does. It's like if you get promoted to work and you're dealing with different people, you're not dealing with your workmates anymore. You're dealing with the higher ups. You're dealing with the people who are, CEOs and whatever. And, it's a completely different mind game. And I don't think he'd want to resign because he loves West Ham. But I think, look, between us two here, us three here, and the people in the chat, right? Would people think that if he did resign, people would immediately go, right, that's it, board out protest, because that must mean that the main West Ham man doesn't want to work here? Then that means these lot must be the worst people to work for in the world. I think it would do, personally.
Yeah, well, do you know what? To add to that, if Mark Noble was to resign, if there was any truth in this, and Scott, I get it, I know what you're saying. We're not actually saying it's happened. It's just kind of talking about the story that's broke out today. So, if Noble was to resign 22 days after taking the job, I do think it would turn.
It's a record.
I do think it would turn toxic than what it is, probably quite quickly. Because, like you said, mate, it's Mr. West Ham, and now he's got a bit of an insight into the background of everything. So, I I just don't know. Like, there's an element of me taking things with a pinch of salt.
Plus, as well, it's the perfect storm to happen, because if you'd done this last season when everyone was quite happy and we was in the Europa Leagues and finals and all stuff like that, everyone's going, so why would he resign now? It's going to say, well, West Ham, but because we're in this rut of only one win in 8 and stuff like that going on. But then yesterday was like, I don't know, it's probably one of the worst days for West Ham news I've ever heard. Danny Ings getting injured, losing out on transfer targets. God knows what else. I can't remember what happened now. It was like
It's like,
it was.
Apparently,
Yeah.
we're injured, apparently.
No?
Apparently, Zuma's injured again.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
After
But
what
the
he's
thing
done.
is, though, this is what's really interesting. The conflicting reports you get on everything, right? So I'll give you another.
I'm going in a minute, by the way.
That's fine, no worries. I'll give you another quick example. Everyone in the chat's talking about Danjuma heading to Spurs. So even 2 weeks ago, I did a story on Danjuma and Moffey coming to the club based upon information. It wasn't me stating that they were definitely coming to the club. It was stating on the fact that the reports were suggesting that Danjuma and his agent were open to talking to West Ham again after the summer. Now, what we've then since heard, literally 10 days later, is that Danjuma has spoken to the Everton board looking for assurances that David Moyes isn't going to be the manager before he was going to sign for the club. Then he said he was going to sign for the club, spoke to all the fans, told them privately, can't wait to wear the blue shirt, and he's fucked off to Spurs.
To be fair, as
No,
much
but-
as we
no,
don't
but-
want to
no,
say
but- no,
it's
but-
good for
no, but-
Spurs.
No, but wait. That's not the part of the story that I'm bothered about. The part of the story I'm bothered about is what we actually believe. Because 2 weeks ago, Danjuma was willing to speak to West Ham, according to sources, to 2 days ago saying, is Moyes going to be in charge at Everton, to then declining. You know, that's how this shit can get wild out there, and stories can, like you said,
Apparently, he was saying that I know what Moyes has said about me. Me and my agent are willing to look past it if Moyes can say that he's sorry about some of those things to me. And then with a day later, you're hearing that Everton are, said I don't want to go there if Moyes is there. So this is what I'm saying, is that I have grasped at something. I'm a bit gutted that it hasn't happened. But it's that's just me having my own agenda. But fundamentally, you're right. As soon as I heard these rumours, I'm like, it would be quite interesting. But at the same time, I don't want to. I could share it around. I could share it around to all the groups immediately and go, listen to this. But I don't you're laughing at.
The comment Anton Greta Thunberg is outside your house. You want a bit of oil slick in your head, mate. I honestly, just quickly, I had someone comment the other day saying I've never seen someone have so many different hairdos ever.
David Beckham with Busto Network,
mate. I'm trying to grow my hair out. It's wild, and I don't know how to control it because I want to have a big.
you're losing it a little bit. You want
no, I'm not losing it at all. That's the problem. I'm not losing it at all. I've got so much thick fucking hair that's annoying. But I want to go out. Yeah, it's ridiculous, man.
Right, on that note, on hair notes, I'm gonna go and get my hair somewhere else. All right.
Don't get asleep.
Yeah, well, they ain't happening, mate. Right. Yeah. Cheers, anyway.
Luke.
Cheers, Luke.
You didn't get a chance of the Pellegrini, Bilic, Allardyce, Pardew. You know, it's the biggest thing that does piss me off about West Ham. It does, mate. It's any manager we've had recently. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to go back to.
We get a few. Every manager plays one or two, right?
Yeah, but
I sat here like I don't know. Was it maybe a deadline day when we were talking about Ashby, and I was like, "Well, is he actually that good?" Because if you believe the rumours again, like it's rumours, but I don't know if it was X, maybe it's not a rumour. But I saw online that they said that the academy staff and David Moyes and the first team staff didn't believe that Ekwa would be good enough to get into the first team, which is why they were happy to let him go. And it's like you go back for that list again. Where was that list? I don't know if Bilic was Bilic first one to give Rice a go.
Yeah, No,
Bilic, wasn't it?
Bilic, yeah, it was Bilic. Yeah. No, was it not Pellegrini? It was Pellegrini, was it not?
I thought it was Bilic.
It was Pellegrini.
I thought Pellegrini. I thought the back end of
Hammerhead has been banned. Let me see if I can sort that out. Right, sorry, carry on, mate.
Yeah, Bilic gave Oxford a chance, didn't he? Pellegrini done him, and then Moyes has done sort of Johnson. He's tried out Connor Coventry a little bit. He did obviously like and if Iron got to go. But I think everyone thought the one that hurt everyone was Diangana, because at the time, the potential was there. He was literally at the time on level, at least creatively in the Championship. He was level with Benrahma. They were like the top two wingers in the league, and we thought, we're getting obviously Diangana back, and he's going to have brilliant pre-season with Haller, and then we sold him to buy Benrahma. But then Diangana sort of stuttered, and it's just made me think sometimes that maybe they don't give him the chance. But we're not managers. I don't see, and maybe Ashby or Ekwa or Elise could be the first one. But over the last 5, 6, 7 years, all the quote unquote kids that we expected to come through, no one's done anything. But no one's done it. Like even in Ngakia, and that was a sore one because he'd done so well in the post lockdown set of games, and then he even gave up because he knew he wasn't in front of Ben Johnson. And is he still at Watford? I've lost track. I don't know if he's still playing there. If he's not getting regular game time there now. So I don't know. Maybe that's Noble's job. Maybe Noble's annoyed about it. Like we said, he was so annoyed about the Diangana one. It's plausible, but we have to trust these people. Yeah.
No, I get it. Sorry, erectile dysfunction. Hi, everyone. Anton, my mate Hammerhead, has been banned. He's commenting, but there's not in the chat. Can I unban him, please? I am currently in the banned list, and I can't see him, mate, at all. And I've just been in, and I can't see him commenting, so I don't know what's going on. So please, if you can, screenshot what you can see, send it to the West Ham Network at gmail.com. The point I was trying to make about the youth is it's the biggest thing that pisses me off about West Ham, because many clubs around Europe do it, give opportunities. It doesn't mean they're going to have to start week in and week out, but there's absolutely room to bring a player through. The difference between bringing a player through and throwing them under the bus is vastly different. Sam Allardyce threw 10, 11 players under the bus when we played Nottingham Forest back in the FA Cup years ago. You could say Moyes threw Mipo Biku under the bus a little bit over the Manchester United incident. And that seems to have been the last time that something scuppered it, apart from a dead rubber game in the Europa League or Europa Conference League. So when I think of Ashby, I think of a player that sits behind currently Ben Johnson, Vladimir Sufal, and Thilo Kira.
You want to hear this?
Go on.
My mate's just sent me a picture. Apparently, Kurt Zouma has got a quad muscle injury, and he's going to be out for a month.
Okay. Well, there you go. There you go.
When it rains at West Ham, it pours.
Yeah.
We got 3 points Saturday, but what cost?
Yeah. Right, we'll come on to that stuff in a minute. Do you think the club will be relegated battle because you've been so poor this season? Who would want a manager because Andy's not doing the special for your club? I'm not sure what you mean, Chelsea.
We are, to be honest, if you look at the bottom of that half of that table, anyone from about 13th down is in a relegation battle. Mm-hmm. Maybe even 12th, because I think Palace are only about 3 points above it. I think it's awkward that Moyes brought in players to play a certain system, and I really think as a back five, I think Everton may have been the first time he actually got to play it. Soufal and Emerson as the wing backs, and Aguero, Bonner and Zuma as a back three. Mm. And then we've managed to get it one game, and Zuma's got a quad injury and he's out for a month. So I guess maybe at least the last week of the window is going to be interesting when it comes to centre-back signings. Because surely now we're going to have to go and get someone.
Yeah, I think we just want definitely confirmation on that situation. But the chances are that probably is true. I mean, when he did go in at one point, he overstretched. Looked like he was going to come off, but he did play on. And he did look a lot. He looked a lot more comfortable. But join me tomorrow, because I'm kind of going in depth about Zuma. In the morning, I'll put something out on Zoom in the morning for you.
If this is true, it's not a knee injury, so it's not like we can't say, it's typical Zuma, because Zuma's thing was his knee, and this is apparently his quad, so it's nothing to do with his knee.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like Danny Ings. Danny Ings hasn't been injured at Aston Villa in 18 months.
Yeah.
And he plays 18 minutes for West Ham and he gets injured.
Yeah.
And he's out 3 weeks.
I know. But you know, the timing of the injury. At the end of the day, if you're going to get injured, you'd rather him get injured now than you would at the end of the transfer window and closer to the game. So it gives us a fighting chance to have at least Ings and Skamaka back. We're going into kind of dissecting a little bit. I did say I could only stay on for 30 minutes. I've come on for 40 minutes. If Matt, 2 questions. Will Mark Noble resign from West Ham? And if he does, what happens next?
No, I don't think he will. I think he may have to have, or he may have already had, if you believe rumours today, clarification and sit down on boundaries and jobs and responsibilities and what he can and can't do. But like you said, maybe he's just lashed out, frustration, guidance. I don't think he would quit.
Yeah.
I think that really would. For nothing else, I don't think they could afford the bad PR that it would bring. Yeah. At the moment, the club is like slightly above Everton on the PR scale. So, like, as a global outreach beyond our own fan base, the focus more is now on Everton. So, the club, if nothing else, would probably try and keep to say, you know what, even if he did, probably say to him, look, you're not doing it right now because we can't afford, we don't want the bad PR.
Who knows, mate? Who knows? Listen, it was a short and sweet one for you tonight. It was a live one, just talking about the Mark Noble situation. It could be a non-starter. I think it probably is a non-starter. Yeah, you've got the comment which says there's no smoke without fire. There's probably an element of that. Yeah. Before we do go, Tabletop Ramble, whatever happened to the Red Bull model? We've got the second oldest squad. Youth doesn't get a chance. Yeah. Do you know what? That's indefensible. The comments 2 years ago talking about the Red Bull model, it's absolutely indefensible. I can't defend that whatsoever. I fully understand when clubs and West Ham would bring in experience. And, see, when I think back to a particular player we were linked to in the summer and we didn't bring in, and it was Hans Vanaken, I actually think he would have been a short-term good solution for West Ham. Not long-term because obviously of his age, but I think he would have been a good short-term solution for us to push us on a little bit more. Danny Ings, obviously 30 years old, doesn't help that cause either, and other signings we're making doesn't help that cause.
That would have been a short-term fix.
Yeah, short-term fixes to a certain extent, but there's nothing else that shows that we're trying to bring that age down and look at the future and build upon that future. So that part pisses me off. That's why, when I'm saying my decision on where I'm at with regards to Moyes, I'm thinking about we need to get out of the situation we're in just now. What's the right way for that? But come the summer, we're about to go through, no matter Moyes stays or goes, we're about to hit transition again. We're going into transition 2.0 because we've got 8-ish players out of contract, and they are quite reliable players in terms of squad players or starting players. So we are also potentially going into transition 3.0 because we're probably going to change keepers. Don't believe that Lorient will probably try and tempt West Ham with an Areola bid. West Ham will not be getting... Areola's not leaving West Ham. Don't you worry about that.
They ain't going to pay $100,000 a week to him.
Yeah, and he's not going anywhere, so don't believe that sort of stuff. But anyway, I don't think Mark Noble will leave West Ham. If he was, it would cause problems. It would absolutely cause problems, but he's not leaving, so just stick with the situation. Let's see what happens over the next couple of days. Join me tomorrow, West Ham Daily, Hammers Headlines, the usual, coming out to you throughout the day. Interesting couple of pieces for you tomorrow, so join us for that. Matt, any final words, mate?
Good luck to anyone going up to Derby on Monday night.
Yeah. Yes.
Enjoy.
Devin Mubama. Devin Mubama. That's who I want to be seeing. He's coming. Anyway, thanks everyone. Take it easy. And of course, come on, you bloody Irons.